Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Beshalach. We dedicate this learning for the safe and speedy, miraculous release of all of the hostages that are being held in Gaza, and the safety and security and protection of all of the soldiers in their missions against various forces of evil as they are ranged on the borders of Israel, within Israel, and all over the world. And the lessons and messages of this week's Sedra, as always, are so pertinent, and they ground us, they carry us, and they uplift us. And when we tap into this frequency, and especially when we look at the portion of the Torah that has the famous song of the sea, Shirat Hayam, we can really tap into wellsprings of consciousness of Hashem and develop the relationship that we have, and have a clarity of vision that the people experienced at the time of the splitting of the Reed Sea, when they emerge safely at the other end, on the other side, they break out into this song. And I often wondered if only we would be able to see such a miracle with our own eyes today, then surely people would be different. They would acknowledge the one true God. They would behave in a moral way. They would use all of their creativity, their resources for good. We see so clearly what happens when people choose evil, choose death, and use all of their resources and gifts for the perpetration of evil and terror. We see the destruction that it brings. And if only people would have that opportunity to see it, and we imagine so passionately that we will see all of the hostages walk free and their evil captors behind bars, tortured as they watch the defeat of their evil. We think everybody would be so different then. Human nature isn't quite like that. And that's why we are given the message, we are given inbuilt into our prayers. We say the Song of the Sea every single day, because you can witness the most phenomenal miracle with your eyes. And we know that seeing something with your eyes is different level of perception and impact than hearing about something. However, ultimately, it's the way you work on that experience, the way you internalize it in yourself, and let it trickle out into your daily actions. That is really where the impact lies, and how we need to bring all of these wonderful events that we've gone through as a nation in these sedras that we've been reading, and we have to take them with us daily on our own journey through life. And so, as we look at the verses, just to concentrate on a few of them, the promise that was given, or the prediction that was given to Avraham Avinu in the Sedra of Lech Lecha, in the book of Bereshis, when the prophecy of the exile in Egypt was foretold. And at the end, it is Hashem, as it were, reassures him, V'gam es hagoy asher ya'avodu, and also the nation that will enslave them, that will force them to work. Don anochi, I will judge. V'acharei yetzu b'rechush gadol, and after that they will go out with substantial. With substantial wealth, and this is understood literally as the property that the Jewish people asked of their Egyptian slave owners as they were leaving, and they got them, and you could say that was payment for their slavery. But this great wealth is also connected to the substantial lesson in emunah, in faith and consciousness in Hashem, and that is what we experienced at the Sea of Reeds, at the splitting of the Sea of Reeds. And so we have to understand that the lessons in emunah that we are getting from reading this as it happened in real time to our ancestors, but understanding that every single day, each and every one of us face a challenge. We are stepping into the sea of what we are going to do with the time that we have, how we are going to fulfill our mission. And there will be challenges of all different kinds. Sometimes challenges that seem relatively trivial actually turn out to be the bigger ones, and vice versa. But the thing is that we need to take the lessons from the epic event of Kriyas Yamsuf, of the splitting of the sea, and bring it down into our lives and bring ourselves up to the messages that it imparts. And I want to focus on a piece in the Talmud, in the tractate of Sota, that discusses the way in which the song was actually sung at the original experience, the original singing of it at the sea. And we read in the opening pasuk that describes this event, which is chapter 15 in Shemos. Oz Yoshe Moshe uvenei Yisrael es hashira hazos laHashem vayomru leimer. Then Moshe and the children of Israel, it's actually written, will sing. That's another share to talk about the tense and what we can possibly learn from the fact that technically the future tense is used. But if we are referring to the song at the sea, we would actually translate it, and the translation that I have here, the Saperstein, translates it in the past. They sang this song. So the paragraph in the Talmud is actually a debate between three of the sages, because if the verse is saying, then the children of Israel sang, then we can assume that Moshe Rabbeinu is included in that description of the people. So what special role? We know he is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, but what is the text trying to point out, trying to elicit, by not just including the whole of the people of Israel and just say, then the children of Israel sang, and we would know that Moshe Rabbeinu is part of that. So the three sages reflect on different ways in which this song was sung. The first sage, Rabbi Akiva, says that Moshe Rabbeinu was the composer and he sung it, and the people, perhaps with a sort of a chorus-like refrain. There are 44 lines of this poetry. We call it a shira, which I think we can loosely translate as poetry, this bit of a crossover with poetry and song. But we can say that Moshe Rabbeinu effectively was the leader. He was a solo in this choir. He was the one, as leader, who sang and delivered the song, and the people, the suggestion is that they kept on repeating the refrain, Ashira la Hashem, I will sing to Hashem, and they said that after every single line. But effectively, it is Moshe Rabbeinu alone who is composing and singing this song. That is according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. The second opinion is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. And according to Rabbi Elazar, the Moshe Rabbeinu said one line and then the people repeated that line. So the whole song was actually sung line by line by first Moshe Rabbeinu and then that line repeated by the people. So here we have, shall we say, the sort of combination of Moshe Rabbeinu and the people together, stage by stage, singing the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. And then the third opinion is the opinion of Rabbi Nehemiah. And Rabbi Nehemiah says that what happened was, Oz Yosher Moshe opened it up, and then all of the people together, this was the first event, the first activity that the children of Israel did as a nation, they each sang the same song, but they sang it individually. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not compose it, wasn't teaching it line by line, but the people spontaneously, a miracle happened, and they each had this Ruach HaKodesh, this divine spirit, this consciousness of Hashem, and they sang the same song, each one individually. So reflecting on this debate in the Talmud, it's giving us deeper messages for something that we really need to work on to internalize on a daily basis in our lives. What are these three different approaches suggesting, and how can we view it and apply it to our own situations? So in the first instance, when we have Moshe Rabbeinu, who is effectively solo speaking and everybody else around him is listening, we have the paradigm of a leader who is a conduit he is such a humble person that alone he is imparting the words of Hashem. And in the verses before the Shira, before the song, we have the verse 31 of chapter 13. We have the verse Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdo. The people believed in Hashem and in Moshe, his servant. Moshe Rabbeinu, as the most humble of all people, was able to have such a solo leadership role because he was completely devoid of ego, and he was a pure vessel just to transmit the command of Hashem, the will of Hashem, the example of what Hashem is wanting from the people. And therefore, he can do that. This way of leading, it will be successful because of the nature of his personality, which is something that we can all learn from. And the challenges of power, the challenges of being in leadership roles and still maintaining this incredible level of humility is a great challenge for people in positions of power with all of the responsibility that accrues. The second style that is represented by Moshe Rabbeinu saying each line and then the people repeating each line is perhaps the traditional model of teaching. And yes, we know that excellent teachers, we will remember things that if we're blessed, we will remember things that good teachers have taught us from decades ago. And equally, teachers who aren't so good, perhaps we won't remember those things for longer than a few seconds. But this is another way that we involve people, we bring a message, we can impact people around us by teaching line by line, verse by verse, and imparting the lesson so that it is absorbed in a manageable way by the people around us. The third style that is reflected in the words of Rabbi Nehemiah, that is the way that the person in a position of power, the leader, is not looking necessarily to teach students. He is looking to create leaders. And with the inspiration that his message, that his presence brings, the people are elevated to such a high level that they rise to a position of leadership themselves. And this lesson came from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, who in 1988 was actually transcribing one of the Lubavitcher Rebbe's talks, as he actually wrote up some of the notes of the Rabbi Schniss and Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schnissen's various sichos, various divrei words of Torah, and he also repeated a story where Yehuda Avner was talking to Rabbi Schnissen, and Rabbi Schnissen Zatzal was talking about leadership and how important it is to fire up the people around you so that they become leaders themselves. And so at the end of the talk, Yehuda Avner is reputed to have said, yes, and has the Rebbe succeeded in lighting the fire in my heart? And the Rebbe responded, I gave you a match. And so we see that this is really perhaps something to strive for, and enabling people to take the lessons, take the messages, and then go out and in their own unique way spread that goodness, spread that light, spread the words and the messages of Torah, and in a way that enables the independent and unique the path that every single person can take. And this is something that we can really use to encourage us as we navigate the challenges that we are facing at the moment, acute challenges, as we have to deal with difficult news, and we need to tap into a narrative of hope, a narrative of inspiration and courage. And I think that we are seeing in Israel so much of that. And going back to this model of leadership, of taking the lesson from Moshe Rabbeinu, where there's such humility and such desire to serve the people. This is something that Rabbi Jacobson was talking to a friend in Israel who repeated conversations that were being had by various soldiers of the IDF as they were waiting to go into houses in Gaza to make sure that they would be made safe. And the soldiers were arguing, let me go first. You have more people at home. I want to be the one to go in first. I want to be the one who is going to do this mission. And we see this selflessness and the heroism and really putting the welfare of the people, the welfare of other soldiers before themselves. And this courage, this bravery can be a light and an inspiration to all of us, as we really have to know that our efforts on the spiritual battlefield, they are paralleling the efforts on the physical battlefield, and it is incumbent upon us to do absolutely everything in our power to entreat Hashem to help us in the challenges that we're facing on the physical battlefield and then on the spiritual battlefield. And let us take hope. We are coming up at this, the Shabbos of Beshalach is very often the Shabbos of the week of Tu B'Shvat. And this festival of Tu B'Shvat is a festival of renewal and hope, that in the middle of the winter, effectively now, Tu B'Shvat is going to be this coming Thursday. And in the middle of the winter, we are anticipating spring. And please God, let us anticipate the spring of our prayers being answered, the safety of our people, and being united under the emblem of Hashem, of the Torah, and lifting our levels of consciousness of Hashem higher and higher. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom.